What's going on, y'all? Chuck Nunface here. We're going to be talking about this knife in my hand right here. This is the brachial or brachial, whatever you want to call it, from Microtech Knives. And there it is in all of its swoopy, curvy Persian goodness. Now, this one is a collaboration between Bastinelli Knives and obviously Microtech or Anthony Marfione, however you want to call that. Produced by Microtech, and it is a side opening automatic. And when I say it is a strong side opening, I am not just whistling Dixie. This thing is a beast. It is a violently fast, violently hard opening knife. Real quick, if you haven't done so already, if you don't mind, if you can go ahead and click that little button right there in the corner to subscribe to the channel. Those of you who are already subscribed, I certainly do appreciate it. If you want to give me a follow on Instagram, if you're not doing so already, it is at Chuck_Nunface. Be sure to leave a comment on this video, hit that like button. I definitely appreciate it. The YouTube algorithm is what it is, and it's kind of just out there. But if you do enjoy my content and wanted to make sure it shows up in your feed, hit that alert button, that bell right there as well, and that will make sure that you get alerted when I have new content out to share with you. But yeah, this guy right here, really liking this. Interesting story about getting this knife in my possession. I had posted a picture on Instagram about the Les George Rockeye, which is produced by ProTech. I posted it on Instagram, and I had been talking about how it's a really, it's a hard-firing side auto. And my friend Kevin, aka Killer Knives on Instagram, said, well, the hardest hitting auto that he's ever felt, side opening auto that he's ever felt, was the Microtech brachial. And so that just kind of, how it goes with us, us gear junkie, knife nuts, whatever you want to call us. Got the gears turning in my head, and I started thinking about the brachial. And I was like, wow, I kind of want to get one of those just to see what it's all about. And the design, it wasn't one, it's been out for a couple of years now, at least over a year. And it was never really a design that kind of grabbed me. I can't say that I'm a huge fan of, or historically at least, I've been a huge fan of, the Persian or the upswept blade, the Persian style blade. But it just kind of got me thinking, and I started watching some YouTube videos on it. And yeah, I ended up scoring one, and he was not wrong. But it's just funny how these things work. At least with me, and I'm sure you can probably relate, is, I just see something, I start thinking about something, and yeah, sure enough, several weeks later, we make it happen. Yeah, hard opening. I know I've already said it, but yeah, definitely, it bears repeating. I think the reason behind that, and I don't know for sure, I have no empirical evidence about it, but I'm fairly certain that Microtech uses the same coil spring. So there's a spring in there that's, the blade, it's got a point up and then a slot where it'll, one portion of the spring gets wedged into the slot or drops into the slot, and then another one in the hole in the blade. And it's a coil. And it's under tension, and then when you push the plunger right there, it will go ahead and release the blade. And that plunger is... well, maybe I can get it on camera. We'll see. No, it's actually hidden in this one. It's not in the... never mind. It's hidden in this one. For the most part. Maybe you can see it on this. I don't know. Kind of see it. Right there. It's easier to see on the stitch than it is on the brachial. But in any case, yeah. So my theory is, at least, is that Microtech uses the same spring on the stitch as they do on the brachial. And the stitch is a bigger blade, more mass, and it comes out, it might be a little bit harder as far as the impact goes, because it's more inertia. The blade is heavier, it has more inertia when it slams home. But this is just faster, and it's kind of like the difference between a 45 and a 9mm, speed, or 5.56 and a 300 blackout, something like that. Where it's speed versus mass. And so it just flies out so dang hard. It really is impressive. It really is. It's kind of blown me away. And there's not any rebound really either. I mean, you can get a little rebound if you hold it a certain way. I can't even manufacture it right now, but it's very slight. And it's really just basically the way you hold it. And when I talk about rebound, it's the plunger doesn't capture the blade instantaneously, so it has a second to kind of rebound back a little bit and get a little bounce effect. But it doesn't happen very much, and it's very minor. But yeah, it's definitely fast action side opening automatic. I'll kind of compare it in size. You know, I wish I had the auto stitch on me today, but I don't. It would be easier, kind of do a better size comparison, but you know, that's what we're looking at as far as blade shape goes for the size. I kind of gotta get it in the angle of the camera right there. Yeah, I've been shooting these in my car lately simply because, you know, I haven't had a whole lot of time to do like a desktop review or anything like that, but I can kind of bang these out during my lunch break, and it works out well. So, you know, forgive the kind of informal content, but that's just kind of what I've had time to do lately, just being busy husband and father. But yeah, this thing carries really nicely in the pocket. It just goes right in. There's none of that. It has the same style clip that their typical Microtech clips are, but it doesn't get hung up. I think this is just a little bit higher, and so it doesn't get hung up. This little hump right here, indentation, doesn't get hung up on pants pockets like it does on the Stitch. So the pocket clip's actually a little bit better. Let me see here. Yeah, that upswept blade, I mean, it really screams self-defense, a knife like this. I am not a proponent of, well, I guess I'm using the term proponent isn't really fair. I'm not a knives as self-defense tools kind of guy. For self-defense, yeah, any knife can be pressed into service. Some are better at it than others. This would probably be more in that category of a knife that would definitely function quite well for self-defense, along with the Stitch, frankly. But I mean, I always look at things through an EDC lens. You know, as far as self-defense goes, you know, I carry a handgun. That's my first choice. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely include this as an adequate, I would say, self-defense option for knives. But man, I hope I never have to deal with something like that, because that can just get really messy, really ugly. Don't want to deal with anything like that in my life. But in any case, I digress. I look at it from an EDC perspective, and it carries really nicely in the pocket. It performs really well. It does have M390 steel. Now, there are reports of Microtechs, you know, running M390 soft. I'm sure there's even empirical evidence around that through Rockwell testing. I haven't had a whole lot of issues with the M390 that I've experienced from Microtech, other than the fact that M390, I'm on record of saying it, I'm not changing my opinion on it, it is not my favorite steel. I do find it to be somewhat chippy, and so it's just not my favorite. You know, it really should be treated to around 62, 63 HRC. I believe these are treated to maybe 5960, something like that, so it's not going to be an ideal heat treatment. That being said, for EDC tasks, I've had no issues with it. I have done, you know, some cardboard and everything else, just kind of carrying around, just doing normal stuff. I mean, I cut my apple up with it today, whoop-de-doo. But yeah, it's been just fine. You may notice I do have different edge on there. I sharpened this actually last night. So this is actually the third edge I've put on this knife since having it, which may sound kind of crazy because it's not like I've been using it a ton, but it kind of presents an interesting sharpening challenge. So with this blade shape and this handle configuration and the way everything is put together, on a guidance system like the KME, which is what I use, it is not really the easiest knife to kind of get in the clamps and have it at an angle that is going to allow you to kind of keep a consistent angle around the entire edge there. It's kind of difficult to do that. So I sharpened it once. I wasn't really satisfied with the edge. I went ahead and sharpened it again. I still wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And so last night I actually ended up taking the knife apart and just putting the blade in the clamp so I could kind of get it at an angle where I wanted it, and I was able to have something I was much happier with doing it that way. I only put about a 600 grit edge on it, and then just went to strops, and frankly I could probably strop it a little bit more. In fact, I know I could strop it a little bit more and get some better performance out of it. But yeah, it's got some nice toothiness to it. It's pretty sticky, especially up here, because as you can see, the bevel does widen a little bit towards the tip, and that's not really a result of a funky angle on my machine or how I was sharpening, but Microtech does have a tendency to kind of make things a little thicker up here and thinner down back here for some tip strength, I would assume. But yeah, that's kind of what I ended up coming up with. So I am happy with the edge. It did come out well. It's just, had I had a little bit more time, I might have taken a little bit more time and finessed somewhat of a more refined edge out of it. But as it stands right now, I'm pretty satisfied. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said earlier, I'm a husband and I'm a father of 3, and I don't always have time to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours really refining an edge on a knife. I kind of just got to take my time as I can get it. And last night I did have a little bit of time where I was able to take the knife apart and just kind of put a quick edge on it and everything else. So that worked out well. But yeah, final thoughts, all in all, this is a cool knife. It's one of those knives that I never really looked at before until I, just had that conversation with a friend. And based on that conversation, it kind of got the gears turning in my mind. And I ended up seeking one out and picking one up, and I'm glad I did. It's a really cool knife. Impressive action on it. Fires hard. You can close it one-handed, but honestly you should probably be using 2 because it is a strong spring, and it can if you're not careful, if it slips out of your hand, you can injure yourself very easily with it. Oh, one last thing, probably not a knife you want to hand to somebody who is not experienced with automatic knives. If you do, better tell them to hold on tight, because they will end up dropping your pretty brachial right on the ground and scuffing it up and damaging your edge and doing all sorts of things like that, maybe busting off your tip. So be advised, don't hand it to the uninitiated. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. Appreciate y'all checking it out. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all of those good things. Follow me on Instagram at Chuck_Nunface, and stay tuned for the next one. Peace out, y'all.